So if you're a regular person who's got a full-time job, you do, normal things, and this is not what you depend on for a living, this is not going to give you the results that you want, that you want to see. Right. So as I'm going through this, I'm finding ways to really break it down in simple ways because I know, like, when you start talking about science terms, sometimes it can be hard for people to grasp the concepts. But I hope this is making sense as I'm breaking this down in simpler ways for you to grasp as well, because I think this is important to just drill home. And so the next thing is recovery, right? Because a lot of these sports, there is a culture of more sessions, more workouts, and there's very little talk about deloads because it seems like everyone is posting their highlight reel when they're performing these competitions with these workouts, right? They're showing like, oh, this is my time, this is how I did, this is how I performed, oh, I can lift this, and a very little, I would say, like, mention and emphasis on recovery. Because if people don't mention that, it's it's poor recovery management at the end of the day. Because you need to learn how to recover your body. Because it's also misleading for people to just think that, okay, you need to show up. You just need to show up every day. Your body needs to recover. As I mentioned, like, strength training requires recovery. It does require recovery. And for you to improve your endurance, you also require endurance, a more volume to do more and do more. So what you find is a lot of people, when they participate in these sports and these fitness races, they tend to now push themselves, go 100% on the strength training, go 100% on the endurance, because it's, again, time thing. They think if they do that, they can perform better. Maybe they can become the next athlete, the next star. And that rarely ever happens. That rarely ever happens. And a lot of people start getting injured before the race even happens, or they get injured during the race because now there's a mix of adrenaline. There's crowds, people are cheering, and there's another athlete competing next to you. So at that point, people feel that pressure to just perform and perform and perform. And that leaves people neglecting the strain, what their body is telling them, the signal their body is telling them. And at that point, when people feel fatigued, maybe they get injured, they just leave and they're still stuck where they were. So, because they don't take time to recover, the nervous system gets fried. That's why, someone will be like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm so fried. And they're drinking so much caffeine or they overeat. It's not always because you're doing so much, like your muscles. No, it's because you're doing so much. But sometimes it's your nervous system, your actual nervous system that is fried, that has been overworked because you're running, you're lifting weights, you're putting load on it. And with Hyrox, there's more emphasis on your lower body. So there's more a likelihood of your feet getting injured, or your knees, or your ankles, Achilles, everything, because you're running so much and you're doing the sled pulls, you're doing your sled pushes, and you're doing a lot of lunges. All of these things can leave you knocked up. And without proper management, recovery management, you can get injured and you're left in a place where you're just stuck and there's no results, but you've done so much. Maybe you've trained for 3 months, 6 months, but you're still where you were. Maybe your cardio has improved. I'm sure like your cardio would have improved at some point. I'm sure it would have. I'm not saying that everything is not going to happen, is not going to work. There might be progress. But what I'm really pointing to is that this is a lot of people that get into this, it's short term. It's a short term thing because the same psychology applies even to bodybuilding because it's like you're training for a short term period to achieve a certain goal or to compete. And that's what happens with a lot of these competitive fitness sports because you find that people at a certain point, some people, that's why you find athletes once they finish competing in whatever sporting discipline that they're in, whether it's soccer, basketball, after that, they put on a bunch of weight. They put on a bunch of weight because they're like, yo, I'm done. I'm tired. So I want to keep doing this. They put on a ton of weight.